Have you ever wondered what the Belt and Road Initiative is and how it could reshape the global landscape? Explore the captivating world of geopolitical power plays, economic strategies, and global connectivity, and how the concerns raised by analysts regarding Chinese power expansion. Witness the United States struggle to present a competing vision amidst the rising dominance of the Belt and Road Initiative. The Belt and Road Initiative is a significant infrastructural undertaking spearheaded by China with the goal of encircling the world. The United States has struggled to present a competing vision since some observers regard the project as an unsettling expansion of Chinese dominance. In certain Belt and Road nations that have faced debt crises, the program has generated criticism. What is this Belt and Road Initiative, also referred to as the New Silk Road? One of the largest infrastructure initiatives ever created is China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, often known as the New Silk Road. The huge array of investment and development programs introduced in 2013 by President Xi Jinping were initially planned to build physical infrastructure that would connect East Asia and Europe. Over the past decade, China's economic and political influence has experienced a significant upsurge due to the expansion of the project into Africa, Oceania, and Latin America. As the costs of many of the projects have ballooned, criticism has grown in some countries. Some observers view the idea as a worrying extension of China's expanding influence. Meanwhile, the BRI could serve as a Trojan horse for Chinese-led regional economic and military enlargement, which is a worry shared by some in Asia. The original Silk Road. The first Silk Road appeared during the Han dynasties, 206 BCE to 220 CE, westward expansion of China, when trade networks were established across the regions that now encompass the Central Asian nations, including Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. These networks also extended to the southern regions of modern-day India and Pakistan. These routes reached Europe over a distance of 4,000 miles. As a result, Central Asia served as the focal point for one of the earliest waves of globalization, bridging Eastern and Western markets, generating enormous riches, and fusing diverse cultural and religious traditions. Important Chinese exports like silk, spices, jade, and other valuable items went to the West, while China got supplies like gold and other precious metals, ivory, and glass. The Tang Dynasty, 618 to 907 CE, in China and the Roman and Byzantine empires, led the route's use during its height throughout the first millennium. China's plans for the New Silk Road. The strategy was centered around two main axes, the Maritime Silk Road and the Overland Silk Road economic belt. Initially known as the One Belt, One Road Initiative, the two later went by the name Belt and Road Initiative. According to Xi's vision, an extensive network of motorways, energy pipelines, railways, and border crossings would be constructed, expanding towards the southern regions encompassing Pakistan, India, and Southeast Asia. Additionally, this network would extend westward, traversing the mountainous territories of the former Soviet republics. According to Xi, such a network would alleviate the bottleneck in Asian connections and increase the renminbi's use abroad. In addition to funding physical infrastructure, China has also pushed other nations to adopt its technological advancements, such as the 5G network powered by telecom giant Huawei. In addition, China has provided support for numerous special economic zones, also known as industrial areas, with the aim of generating employment opportunities. China would invest in port construction around the Indian Ocean, from Southeast Asia all the way to East Africa and parts of Europe, to accommodate the growing maritime trade flow. China's entire BRI ambitions are astounding. 2/3 of the world's population and 40% of the global GDP are represented by the 147 nations that have either signed on to projects or expressed interest in doing so as of this writing. What does China intend to accomplish? China's initiative is driven by both geopolitical and economic considerations. Even though the country's unpaid loans have increased to the equivalent of more than a quarter of its GDP, Xi has championed a vision of a more aggressive China. According to experts, along with the Made in China 2025 economic development vision, the BRI is one of the cornerstones of a more audacious Chinese foreign policy under Xi. Additionally, it is a tool for China to create new commercial connections, nurture export markets, raise domestic incomes, and export its surplus productive capacity. In addition to securing long-term energy supplies from Central Asia and the Middle East, especially via channels the U.S. military cannot disrupt, promoting economic development in the western province of Xinjiang, where separatist violence has been on the rise, is a top goal. Generally speaking, Chinese officials are committed to reshaping the economy in order to escape the dreaded middle-income trap. In this situation, which has affected over 90% of middle-income nations since 1960, rising low-skilled manufacturing raises salaries and improves quality of life. But countries fail to switch to producing higher-value goods and services. Beijing might also try to exert geopolitical influence over BRI nations. A 2021 study examined more than 100 debt finance agreements China entered into with foreign governments and discovered that many of the agreements included language that prohibited restructuring with the Paris Club, a group of 22 key creditor countries. Furthermore, China typically reserves the right to request repayment at any moment, allowing Beijing to use financing as a lever to press for change on contentious subjects within China, such as Taiwan or the treatment of Uyghurs. Nicaragua formally joined the BRI in January 2022, 1 month after cutting diplomatic ties with Taiwan. How has the U.S. reacted to the regional integration being spearheaded by China? Concerns about China's intentions were echoed by the United States and other nations. The United States has invested tens of billions of dollars and exercised its diplomatic weight since the Obama administration's pivot to Asia to develop infrastructure and promote collaboration among low-income nations. With the passage of the BUILD Act by President Donald Trump, the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, and the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, OPIC, were combined into a single organization called the Development Finance Corporation, which has a $60 billion investment portfolio. The Build Back Better World Initiative, B3W, an infrastructure investment program designed to compete with BRI, was introduced in 2021 by President Joe Biden in association with the Group of Seven, G7. Despite the claim of some advocates that B3W complements BRI, many agree that it lacks the funding necessary to pose a major threat to China's program. After B3W's announcement, only $6 million in commitments had been made for the program, which has since changed its name to the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment. Some argue that Washington should increase its aid-based funding through already established multilateral institutions like the World Bank and IMF, rather than investing in infrastructure, an area where China has an economic edge. Others have contended that the BRI may have benefits for the United States. According to Jonathan E. Hillman of the Center for Strategic and International Studies, the United States may use BRI projects as a means of getting China to pay for Central Asian infrastructure projects that are also in the country's best interests. What obstacles might there be? Additionally, opposition to the Belt and Road Initiative has grown. BRI funding is viewed as a potentially poisoned chalice for those nations that incur significant debt to pay for infrastructure investments. China sees BRI initiatives as business ventures with loans that have interest rates comparable to market rates and that it expects to be completely repaid. Some BRI investments required the involvement of Chinese companies and entailed secretive bidding procedures. Contractors have raised prices as a result, which has caused projects to be canceled and a political backlash. Some doubters link the BRI to global warming. Even though China promised to stop constructing coal-fired power plants abroad in 2021, non-renewable energy investments have accounted for nearly half of all BRI spending. It is unclear, however, whether the commitment applies to projects that are already underway or only to new projects, and whether it also restricts financing for coal-fired power plants. Thank you for joining us on this insightful journey into the Belt and Road Initiative. We hope this video has shed light on the massive infrastructure project and the various perspectives surrounding it. As always, we encourage you to continue exploring and seeking knowledge.